So we turn it off, turn it back on. Now we don't hear the clunks. What do we do?
So if we don't hear the clunks, what that means, it's going to go to a 711 error code.
Okay.
So one of these two safeties is opened up is what that means.
So the safeties are actually wired into the gas valve, and I've got a gas valve here. I'll show you what we're talking about. So you've got a gas valve here, and this is really cool. This is the manifold and the gas valve. You've got 5 solenoid valves on this gas valve. You've got 5 solenoid valves, on the gas valve.
On the gas valve.
So you've got a modulating solenoid valve, a main solenoid valve, and then you've got 3 solenoid valves that open up chambers. And allow the gas to come in. But this modulating solenoid valve is what's going to modulate it anywhere between 15,000 BTU and 199,000 BTU. And that's really based on demand or flow.
Right.
Now you're saying that the safeties are actually tied into the gas valve.
Yeah, you'll see all of the gas valve solenoids have a blue common wire.
Right.
So that's what lets the power go back and lets the power flow through that actually energizes the solenoid. So all of those commons go through our 2 safeties here.
Right.
And they're wired in series. So we've got our push button high limit.
That's our manual reset.
Mm-hmm. Now keep in mind, or important to note, that this is 120 volts that goes through these.
And how do you know that?
Because I shocked myself really well in a training class, and it was
I
big
bet you
fun.
that was funny though.
It was, for everybody but me.
Yeah, I know,
everybody
yeah,
but me. And again, blue spades, so these are locking spades. We have to depress
Anytime
a
you
little
see a
bitty
blue
button.
cover on the spade, it's going to be
Right.
locking.
So this is easy. We're just going to push the little red button. If we hear it click,
Then we walk away, right?
yeah, walk away. If we hear it click, that means that we couldn't get heat into the water. We need to de-lime it. There may be some other rare things, but
So what's going on is you're insulating that tubing with the buildup on the inside of it. So when the flame kicks on, it has to heat that the buildup before it heats the water. And in some cases, it's not going to be able to do that fast enough, and it's going to superheat the copper, and then we're going to hit that temperature. And what did you say that temperature was?
this one is 194 degrees
Yeah.
Fahrenheit. Now that's for the 199,000 BTU and up.
Okay.
The residential models are a little bit lower, but it's at 185.
So if you have to press this button, you need to de-lime the heater.
Yeah, de-lime the water heater. Don't just walk away.
Yeah.
Because what will happen is the more times that you push this and walk away,
Yeah.
the more stress we're going to put on that copper, and eventually it will leak.
Yeah, I mean, because you may be standing next to a homeowner and do that, and he sees you do that, then every time it goes out, he
They
knows what to
definitely
do. And another thing too that's on here is your 432 degrees, 36 degrees.
400, about 430.
30, okay.
I don't know the exact number.
I think it's 32 myself, but
I'll go with that. So inside here is a thermal fuse. So 432
yeah,
degrees.
some degrees. Yeah, I'll probably get a call tomorrow saying it's not that.
You're going to get a
Yeah.
angry email from Jason
Yeah,
Jans.
yes, I will.
So that wraps around the heat exchanger. So if there's a hole that gets put in the heat exchanger, somehow we get exhaust gases out.
And that can happen, you get a hole because of the buildup on the inside. Those gases have got to go somewhere and create stress on this copper, and eventually you'll have a crack in there and you'll have a breach
Yeah.
in the actual heat exchanger, allow those flue gases to come out. Another thing that could trip this is if you do have to take out the flame sensor and igniter, there is a sight glass here, and this bracket actually holds that sight glass in there, so that sight glass it's not easy to get out, but it can fall out.
Especially if you pull this out and you're cleaning it.
Right.
So compressed air will blow it out of there. Or if you're rinsing it with water, you can lose that sight glass, and that definitely will let those hot gases come out, and you can see that it's just right above that.
Yeah, and so you don't want to do that, and if that does, it's going to open that up. But really, most of the time, you'd be dealing with the buildup on the inside of that water passage, and if you get a breach in the heat exchanger, it's time that'll have to be replaced.
Yeah, and anytime that this safety is opened up, and you
Right.
can check it, it unplugs from the rest of the string, and you can check between those contacts. Now, don't get too aggressive when you're sticking meter probes in there because we don't want to damage this connection.
We're just looking for continuity,
But yeah,
right?
you just have to get right inside of there. You're looking for continuity. If
Yeah.
there's no continuity through this, you have to pull the heat exchanger all the way out because we want to see where did that heat come from
Right.
and correct the issues. Now, if there's nothing wrong with the heat exchanger and we're going to put this back in, it still has to be all the way out because we have to wrap it back around in the same
Yeah.
routing to make
So
sure.
take a picture of it.
that we're
Take a
protected.
picture of it if you pull it out and look at it, because it does wrap around the backside uniquely. Also, you know, when there could be a bad gasket, there could be a bad seal here that can allow those flue gases to come up. So if you've had to take that apart for some reason, you might have to do that as well. Or if there wouldn't be anything between the secondary heat exchanger and the primary, is there?
There is a gasket between these two heat
I'm gonna go
exchangers.
shift this back.
Here, you can have this one too.
All right.
Thanks. There is a gasket in between the two heat exchangers, but where it's up above that fuse that safety fuse, probably not going to be the case. But still worthwhile to check if you don't see any other obvious signs of where the heat's come from.
Okay, so that's a 711 error code, and that's telling us that one of these safeties is open, and that's when you don't hear the clunk clunk or the 3 sets of clunks whenever you turn the water heater off or turn it back on. So if you're experiencing a 111 code or ignition failure, you're going to turn it off, turn it back on, and then you're going to use your ears. You're going to hear it. If you don't hear it, go to those safeties.